Hi, happy Black History Month, and welcome to STEM Explorers. My name is Corey, and this month, in honor of Black History Month, we are going to be doing three different activities related to three different important Black inventors. So I'm going to break it down, show you each activity that we're going to be doing, and then while showing you how to do them, I will also give you a little bit of facts about the inventor that inspired the activity. So if you had signed up for this program and you received the kit, you should have pretty much all the materials you need to do all three activities. I did divide them up so that each activity was separate, so you should have all the materials you need to do each one separately. They sort of vary in difficulty. The eye model for Dr. Patricia Bath, that one is probably going to be the hardest and most time-consuming one, but we'll get to that one later. Let's start off with our paper lantern jar and Lewis Latimer. So let's start with Lewis Latimer. So he is an inventor best known for his contributions to patenting the light bulb and the telephone. He worked closely with Thomas Edison and Alexander Graham Bell. He also designed a bunch of his own inventions. So this one's a pretty simple activity. Basically, you're going to take your Mod Podge and your paintbrush and put Mod Podge along the entire outside of the jar. And then you're going to place the strips of tissue paper onto the Mod Podge. As you can see, I'm doing that bit by bit. And then go over it again with a second layer of Mod Podge to help seal the tissue paper in so that it doesn't flake off. Once you've finished covering the entire jar and you've let it sit and dried, you can take, you'll have a little flameless candle with you that's going to act as our light source. You're going to take that and put that on the jar lid and then screw the jar lid back on and you'll have your little lantern. So when it's dark, as you can see, like it'll sort of light up and the light does sort of affect the color of the tissue paper, so it comes out looking pretty cool and aesthetic. But yeah, that is our first activity. Let's move on to the next one. All right, for our next activity, we are going to be doing basically a semi-realistic eye model. This one is inspired by Dr. Patricia Bath. She is a female scientist. One of her greater known accomplishments was that she invented the laser phaco probe for cataract treatment. All right, so for this eye model, basically you're going to start off, I sort of pre-made the base, which is basically the ball on the stick with the smaller cardboard tube poking out of the back of it. That small tube coming out of the back end of it, that's basically going to represent the optic nerve. We're going to start off by doing a little bit of coloring. So first you're going to make your pupil and the iris. That's what you're going to use the blue and the black for. Blue is going to be the iris, and then the black is going to be the pupil. And then you're going to take the red and basically color in the back side of the ball, making the ciliary artery. So that's going to be like the red back side of it and the little red lines that are coming out of it. So that's the arteries that are sort of coming off your eye. Once you finish with that, I would give it a minute to let the marker dry. Once it does, then we are going to put the cornea in place. So basically with your eye, there is like a small shield um, over your pupil. And to represent that, we have that little tiny plastic piece. Basically, I put a little bit of Mod Podge, and then we're gonna stick that right over the iris and hold it for a second, and it should dry. With my piece, basically these little plastic pieces that we're using for the cornea, they actually come from a googly eye set that I cut the back off of. So if it doesn't fit perfectly on the eye, basically I would take take your scissors and do a little trimming so that it will fit like flush up against the eyeball. Then after you do that, we're going to move on to the next step, which is the eye muscles. So there should be 4 pieces of foam paper in your bag. Basically, you're going to color the middle of them red to represent the eye muscles, and then we're going to attach them to the sides of the eyeball, and then attach the end to the stalk for the optic nerve. And so the eye muscles, as you know, they control your eyeball. That's how your eye moves around, how you're able to look in different directions, all that good stuff. But yeah, so that part is probably going to be the most time-consuming part. You can do it a couple different ways. So if you want to use glue to glue it to the eyeball, I included some rubber bands because the foam will not stick immediately to it. So if you want to take a rubber band and wrap it around the foam pieces as they're drying to the eyeball, you can do that. Alternatively, you can use tape to attach them and hold them in place. So I did a mixture of both. When attaching them to the eyeball itself, I used the glue, and then when attaching them to the back end to the optic nerve, I just used some regular clear tape. But whichever works for you, if you have both on hand, feel free to do so. The tape was a little quicker because with the glue and the foam paper, you do have to give it plenty of time to dry. And so if you do go that route, use the rubber bands to hold it in place. So now we're pretty much finished with the eyeball model itself. I also included some clay because now that we finished the eyeball, we'll need to have some way to sort of display it. So basically, I have this little mound of clay. I'm gonna mold it into sort of a ball, and then I'm gonna stick the dowel rod that's holding our eyeball into it. And there you have it. That is our eyeball model. It's a little creepy, but also kind of cool. And now on to our last activity. So this last activity is inspired by the inventor Garrett Morgan. He was an African-American inventor who invented a variety of things. He invented a hair straightening product, a breathing device, basically sort of a gas mask. He created a revamped version of the sewing machine, and he created the improved traffic signal. So before, with traffic signals, it was only the 2 colors, red and green, so stop and go. His version that he invented it was a 3-light system. So our activity that was inspired by the traffic light is basically going to be sort of a board game here. So included in here is a simple board game map that I made, and a paper dice that you can use. So basically, you're going to take that dice and you can cut it out. If you would prefer to use real dice, you can. Basically, you're just going to need to assign the stoplight colors to the die. But if you want to go ahead and use the paper die, it's all you're going to need to do is just cut it out and either tape or glue it together into the cube shape. When you're cutting it out, don't cut off the little tabs on the side of the squares. That is what you're going to use to attach each side together. Then once your cube is assembled, you can get ready to play. So basically, I included 2 little cars. If you have more people, you get other cars, or if you have other little models or figures that you want to use, you can do that. But basically, everybody's going to take a turn, roll the dice, and depending on what it lands on, that's how many spaces you move. So if you land on green, you're going to move 2 spaces. If you land on yellow, you're going to move 1 space. If you land on red, you're not going to move at all. But as you're progressing on the board, there are also a couple special spaces that you can land on that have other effects. So if, for example, you land on this first one, it means you have to skip a turn. If you land on the other space, there's an extra roll space. So that will give you an advantage to get to the finish line sooner. But yeah, so hope you enjoy and have fun with that. So thank you guys for joining me for STEM Explorers. I hope you guys have fun with these different activities. I would definitely advise you to look them up to learn a bit more about them yourselves, or come to the library and get a book on the Inventors, because we do have books on all 3 of them. So, but yeah, they're pretty cool people. Definitely fun to learn about. And I will see you guys around. Bye.